Okay, rounding out the Fight the Alignment series. And we get into the good alignments. Lawful good, neutral good, chaotic good. Of course, I'm going to start with chaos first. Hey, kitty. Now, one of the problems with the good alignments is that after you buy a book like, the Pathfinder, Bestiary, you've got a monster manual, you're stuck with all these like stat blocks for monsters and things with good alignments or good-natured creatures, and you're like, well, how the hell do I use them? Well, for 30 years I've been thinking about this, and on and off in little ways. And here's my 2 cents on it. Chaotic good. Chaotic good is probably your best good alignment to set your players up to have a direct confrontation, physical combative confrontation without having to go through or build up an elaborate series of events to have them have conflict with these creatures. Now, unless you're playing a game where all the players are evil, in which case, of course, you just have a bunch of good aligned creatures and have them fight. Chaotic good is the chaotic portion of that means that they are more than willing to break the rules that are the general accepted norm in the community for the reasons they perceive to be good. And without causing any kind of trying to offend, and this is just for role-playing aspect, the best way you can describe a chaotic good person is a person who immediately goes out and protests something. They are the ones who, they are the, young college students protesting on campus about, chemicals in the food or about the depletion of the ozone. These are the people who want to throw a shoe at the president when they're speaking at a conference, or throw blood on people that are wearing furs. It is the chaotic portion of chaotic good is this emotional desire to have things done quickly and efficiently because they don't understand why the system takes so long to make a change when they know good can be done in the world. It's like waiting for the nations around the world to change what they're doing in terms of polluting the environment, when the chaotic good person is like, well, why not just change it now? Why does it take so much time and effort to enact laws when we know people are suffering? When people are starving, why not just feed them? And the chaotic good NPCs and creatures tend to fall into the category of belonging in an ordered society and wanting to change that ordered society, not the entire society, but maybe just one particular thing. They see maybe these villages are starving, and they go, well, let's just take the food and feed them, when the king may have to consider its effect on the entire population and understand that, well, the villagers have the skills necessary to fend for themselves, but the city dwellers may not have the ability to fend for themselves. I'm going to have to make the decision to hold the food for the major cities and allow the villages to go out and operate and hunt and feed and farm on their own. There very well could be decisions that the chaotic good person is not looking at and doesn't want to look at those things. They want to see a right, wronged, right now. The other aspect of chaotic good is that they may already be so independent that their rules of conduct don't fall in line with anyone else. For example, woodland spirits like sprites and dryads and such have only one concern, and that is their small grove in the forest. And any harm done to it, for good or bad, can be viewed as a violation. So, for example, the holy knights need to take their 1,000-man army through this woodland glade to get to the enemy, the dryads may look at that like, you're invading my territory, get the hell out of here. Even though the knights didn't particularly have a reason to want to harm them and may not have known of their existence, doesn't matter. A cat of good alignment may just say, look, you were in violation of my rules. It doesn't matter that you didn't understand. I'm not even going to try to understand what you're talking about or what your position is. You need to get the hell out. So there are many, most of the good aligned creatures, you're talking like metallic dragons, storm giants and cloud giants, the coatl, I'm probably pronouncing it wrong, but the winged serpent, there's some others, there's some woodland creatures and such. Having them in a game does require a little more forethought. Chaotic good creatures tend not to want to immediately annihilate and kill the player characters. It could be a matter of, let's say in the form of the woodland creatures, removing them from their locale and placing them somewhere else, maybe even stealing their stuff. But chaotic good is the easiest motivation to have them in opposition to your player characters, even if initially they are on their same side. So I would say that with using chaotic good creatures and fighting them is to understand what their motivation is. And they may not be too lenient or want to explain themselves to you at first, but for example, in the case of the woodland creatures attacking the player's party, it could be that an enemy has traveled and trespassed through their woodland grove so many times that they just on sight they attack any stranger. And if the player characters can figure out, like, okay, listen, we know what evil is happening. If we eliminate that evil, will you let us go? Or will you stop attacking us? That could be a possibility, and they could become an ally. Now, to set up a situation where it's a do or die, where instead of having them, do non-violent things, where you really want the player characters to fight against them, you have to create such animosity from the chaotic good that they're willing to kill and sacrifice themselves for their desires. And that could be feeding if they have a desire to feed the villagers and the king is absolutely adamant about not feeding them, well, chaotic good NPCs or creatures may just say, hey, listen, king, you're going down. You have no right to withhold the food from these people and the grains and take away their livestock and their supplies. You need to go down, and I'll sacrifice myself so that these people can eat. I'll steal from your reserves so that they can eat. I will harass your army so these people can eat. And when the player characters find out about it, they could be set on a mission to go after these so-called vigilantes that are taking the law into their own hands because they're creating some civil disruption. And that's another reason why chaotic good could be hunted down, because the civil disruption, the lack of law and order in a very large community can lead to other disruptions where criminals are able to take advantage of it. They're using the disorder and all of the resources being utilized to try to stop the chaotic good creatures or NPCs and take advantage of that chaos and rob the food stores themselves, maybe to feed their own banditry and blame it on the good guys. So anyway, it's my little part about chaotic good. I would say that in summary, they are either living in an ordered society and there's something wrong with the ordered society, and they just rise up emotionally against it and just say, look, I'm taking a stance, I'm against this kind of thing, especially if they're an NPC that lives in this world, within this community. Or they're an outsider themselves, maybe they're like good dragons, good giants, chaotic good spirits and sprites, woodland creatures, or not necessarily woodland. You can always change them to live in mountains, regions, swamps, deserts, what have you, plains, oceans, and rivers, and their domain, they've kind of claimed this domain, and they just don't like trespassers. Um, I suppose a third one could be blended of the two, where the chaotic good community wants to secede from the larger community to go out and make its own location, and there you have the opposition where do you go by the rule of law or rule of freedom, and the player characters may have to decide between the two and choose a side, becoming the enemy of the other side. So anyway, DBJ, as always, trying to create, not destroy, using good alignments as in a do or die situation with player characters can be kind of tough, but it also makes you feel like, wait a minute, I've got all these stat blocks hanging around, and what do I do with them? So anyway, long story short, create, don't destroy, DBJ, and I'm out.